Hey guys, so we're back with some mobility and now we're working our way up the kinetic chain and we're at the hips. Of course, we're linking back to our assessment. Key issues we're going to encounter are the internal, external rotations, tight hip flexors, weak glutes. So there's a couple of drills here we like to use that are going to identify those, help us identify it to our clients, and then work through those for later on in the session. We're going to start with the internal rotation. I'm going to have Jens have a lay on his back on the floor here. Just going back to that test within the assessment. So he's going to bring his knee to 90 degrees. I'm going to take my left hand underneath and just support his knee here with my right hand. So now we're down here in the floor in this position. We're going to take Jens to end range where we find it sticks. Once we've found that, he's going to fight me to try and bring back to midline. Let's go, Jens. Perfect. We're going to bring him back to end range. We do it one more time. Let's fight, 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 fight. And relax there. I'm then going to bring him back to end range. I'm going to take it away. I'm going to ask him to isometrically contract and hold here. Perfect.
Yeah, so that's a great way to really try and give awareness to your client as to where a good place is. A lot of the time passively you can get a lot more range out of the hip, and then we want to try and build strength in this new range that you've created. And that strength is there for mobility that they could potentially use one day soon.
Awesome, let's jump up to our feet. So we're going to use the bands now for some bandage distraction work, and we'll look at that external rotation piece. So Jens is going to step inside the band and just bring the band around his thigh. He's going to come laterally to the frame. It's important he comes forward by 30 degrees, okay? So about 30 degrees forward from the frame, and he's going to drop down into a Spider-Man position or a mountain climber by bringing his hands to the floor inside his feet and just dropping that back knee on the floor. From here, if you come around the front, we can see the band is creating this distraction here laterally at 30 degrees from the rack. Just come forward a bit more for me, Jens. Just shuffle your weight forward. Perfect. From here, we're going to plant the foot, grip the foot, just like we do with our squat. So big toe, little toe, and heel. And we're going to maintain this arch in our tripod foot. And then we're going to allow the band to pull out, 3 seconds, and then we're going to resist against it. So he's going to pull in towards him. Perfect, giving us this active range. From there, he can just start shuffling his weight out towards the left-hand side, create more tension within the band. So just keep shuffling this foot, heel, toe in towards you. Perfect, let's do it again. Let's pull in, drive in, good. As a coach, you can use yourself and the band so you can show you're actively coaching your client, give them something to work against, and then it's just gonna let that drop back out. Again, creating this external rotation. We want to be careful not to let the toe drop off the floor in this position here. Remember when we look at squatting, we're trying to keep this foot, this tripod foot, anchored to the floor, and the knee drops out. Perfect. The next one, so if Jens just drops up, we'll stay on the same hip. So if he stands up for me, we're going to go into a banded hip flexor stretch where he's facing the rack. So if I get you to turn around, big fella.
Facing the rack.
Facing the rack for this one, please.
English, Jens.
Perfect. So I'm going to come around this side. Jens is just going to take a reverse lunge to get himself down to the floor, dropping his right knee onto the floor.
Cool. The key here as well, guys, is make sure this band is right up in the joints. Okay, obviously, coaches to your clients make sure they don't catch anything they don't want to catch, but you've got to get it right up into the joint. You're trying to distract the joints and have this anterior traction pulling forwards. So grab hold of it, then drop down, maintaining good tension on the band.
Perfect. So now we're looking at the angles of the body that he's creating here. In particular, the lumbar spine. We don't want to create this false range by arching through lumbar spine here into hyperextension. So it's important he maintains the brace here. You can see how this links through to movement, whether it's in the squat or the deadlift. We're always maintaining this brace, this anti-extension core here. He's going to try and actively recruit his glute a little bit more, and I also want him to come onto his toes, the ball of his foot on his back foot. So he's got purchase with the floor as he tucks it. He can then tuck his pelvis into posterior pelvic tilt. Get a nice big stretch through here. We feel that stretch there, Jens?
Yeah, big time.
We can then use our breathing again, linking back to the breathing and how we're going to introduce movement through there. So as he breathes in, he's going to exhale and he's going to just reach and stretch nice and tall. Exhale, nice and controlled. Keep the glutes on in that position here. He can then bring the elbow back to neutral and set, and then again breathe in, exhale, squeeze the glute, tuck the hip pelvis, reach nice and tall. Perfect. So a really good stretch here to open up this anterior chain here of the hip flexor and the hips. The last one we're going to look at is just the hamstrings. Now again, I'm going to grab a little weight. I'm going to get him to work here. We're starting to look at some movement patterns now, in particular the hinge, okay? So the hamstrings, the glute complex. If we come around the side here, what we're looking for is feet neutral, and I'm actually going to get him to offset his legs a little bit with his left leg slightly further forward and just bent for me. from here, we're going to work this right hamstring, okay? So he's got his feet facing forward, tummy in nice and tight, a nice neutral spine. From here, we're going to allow the band to drive his hips backwards. This leg's going to stay fairly locked straight, soft knee, and we can create some distraction around this hip, pulling away here at the pelvis and the femur, and just giving him a nice hamstring stretch. And we've also taught him now a nice hinge, unloaded. And if we just drive back through the glute here, do we feel a hamstring there, gents?
Yeah, big time.
Perfect. So we can just make this a little bit, give him a bit more feedback now by taking the kettlebell and just loading at the front of the body. Same thing now, I want you to try and drive hips as far away from your knee as possible behind you. Try and touch the bum on the wall behind you. Perfect. Again, we're getting a nice hamstring stretch through here. We've taught him the hinge. We've got some nice straight lines. And again, just drive back through from the heel. Perfect. Make sure we get good connection with the floor. As always, heel, big toe and little toe. Make sure the band stays nice and high around the hip, so it's influencing what goes on here at the pelvis. Perfect.